About proceeding. So we press up for 2 seconds.
Yeah, you ready, go?
Oh, okay. Ngiyazwakala? Yeah. Sanibonani? Ninjani? Siyaphila kakhulu. I think the program director was very correct. Uma ethi akuzwakali ukuthi ivent abantu abasha. Akuzwakali ngempela. Futhi ngabe manje sekushaywe ingoma ey'ningana. We can't be so despondent. In as much as we are facing a lot of difficulties in this country. But as far as we are despondent, we are not socially done. People did try to make at least so that we create a vibe. We said the two. We are young and vibrant. Otherwise, our participation is going to be very stifled. Not only here but everywhere else. Okay, let me go straight to the point. As introduced, my name is Molaodi Sekake. Ngikhulele eClermont. Ngaba nenhlanhla yokulunguza lapha esikoleni ngagcina lapha enyuvesi eKZN sakwazi ukwenza ezinye izinto ezahlukene. Now, when the topic was given to us, repositioning youth political participation in the advancement of socio-economic development, many questions came to me in relation to the conditions of young people in South Africa. And this is how I'm going to ground my presentation. I'm going to narrate a story so that my presentation has a participatory element. And if you get the gist of the story, then you would have gotten whatever I am going to say. The rest falls within the context of the story. We are told that at some point in China, there was a person called Chairman Mao. He narrated a story to the Chinese youth. The story went like this. There was a father who had a very sick daughter. Now, there was a common belief in the community that if someone has difficulties, if someone has problems, or if someone specifically is sick, there is a particular mountain that the entire community goes to. In religious terms, it's called the pilgrimage, if I'm not mistaken. So the belief was that if you have problems or if you are sick, you must take yourself up the mountain. No one should help you out. You must take yourself up the mountain. So it was a long-held belief in that very community that no one must help you go up the mountain. True. Now, here is the case. Now this father has a sick daughter. And the journey starts. The daughter is able to take herself halfway up the mountain. And then she fainted. When she faints, everyone going up the mountain stops and wants to see the reaction of the father to the state of the daughter. What is he going to do? Now there are two choices. It's either you stick to a long-held belief that if you can't take yourself up the mountain, then you have a problem. You are not going to solve whatever problems you have. Or you violate a long-held tradition and help your daughter up the mountain. So I just want to pose a question. If you were this father and you had a sick daughter or even a sick son, and there is a long-held belief, a belief of centuries, that everybody must take themselves up the mountain, what were you going to do? Any hands, any participation from anyone? You are this father. There is a long-held belief that everybody must take themselves up a mountain. Here is your son, here is your daughter. They can't take themselves up a mountain. What do you do? You can hold it as in because what we normally encourage is that whatever we do, we are not absolute possessors of knowledge. So in our presentations, somebody knows, we allow participation so that you are part of the presentation and the storytelling. Because the storytelling seeks to illuminate certain realities and power dynamics that are prevalent in our society. So I'm going over the story. So what were you going to do? Show up, my brother. What were you going to do? Yeah, you can just stand up and make your point.
Greetings to the house at last. I'm going to this is Councillor Estate to Malcolm Department. Ngikumbamba ngesandla ngikwengalo sabisa because kufanele ayihambele kodwa futhi akakwazi.
Okay. So Councillor says no. Sharp, sharp.
Morning. I'm not too loud, but we never have lunch yet, so after lunch.
Amen. You're putting the cart before your horse. Let's wait first, yeah.
Okay, I'm loud enough.
Yeah.
I'm Shadow Francis. I love God first before anything else. Yes. I'll not amen nothing. Anyway, I heard him say that the daughter must walk on her own. It's the belief, right?
Yeah. But it's a long-held belief. It has been kept for centuries.
Okay. Like, I'm using this as a parent, as an organization, like we all are.
Okay.
If the system says she must go, but because of health, it's going to be challenging for her. We're going to stick to what the system says. But as organizations and fathers, we're going to be behind her every step of the way. If she does so, we'll pick her up and carry her in the air. So she knows it's a challenge, but behind her is some protection. So never mind the challenge, she's going to carry her. Right?
Anyone else, any table that is following the line of rebellion? Yes.
For me, it would depend. Okay, first of all, I would have to look back. Has this been working previously for the people before I actually act? So if kuyinto engaze ngibone isebenza, I would really violate it.
I just want to point at this table because it has been having a lot of private discussions. So that we avoid a coup and we want to ensure that they are part of us. Just one representative. Yeah.
Greetings, guys. I have a friend who used to say that in the absence of sense, nonsense becomes sense. In this case, this is what I think. I know most of the people differ. I think maybe in China, your child goes to the mountains when they're like 16.
Okay.
Then along the way, your child fails. It is okay to fail, firstly. It is okay to fail and go back and start again. Sure. Because already, usefailile. Usizana ukuthi ngimbambe ngesandla ngikuqhubeke or whatever the rules say, but then efailile.
Okay.
As a generation, we must always teach ourselves that it is okay to fail, to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, failile, now we know you have asthma.
But here there's no going back to the drawing board.
We can. Who said rules can't be broken, Molaodi?
Okay.
Because now, if Mtanam has asthma, you go back, touch asthma problem, we are a generation that conforms to things that don't work for us.
Yes.
If in the 80s went to the 80s men, I'm going to talk about South Africa now. I'm sorry, Tinia, I got this. In the 80s, men in the Eastern Cape went to the mountains, went to go do that process they do. I'm not going to name it by name because it offends other people. Maybe hundreds in the 80s and the 70s. Maybe hundreds. In the 70s, in the 90s, maybe hundreds, maybe 80. Now something is changing that is wrong. In the 2000s, maybe hundreds, maybe 50. More and more are dying as each and every year and season changes. Because in the mountains, the weather is changing. When you bleed more. There are a lot of easy for all people that suffer from because our bodies are different. Our bodies are weaker as this generation. But I guess as fail. And we tell our kids that let's do this thing, our tradition as a country differently. So say abantu bayofa but asifuna ukuvuma ukuthi abantu bayafeyila.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things. And what I like about what has transpired is the nuance. Things are not either or. Yeah. So the whole idea of the story, I don't want to finish it up, is that sometimes, and this is the problem we're facing in South Africa, sometimes we want to keep certain traditions which are no longer relevant to the present moment, simply because they have been in existence for centuries. Now we have a choice, especially when you talk about political participation, whether in our participation we are willing to undermine cultural, political, and economic traditions that have existed for centuries in pursuit of our freedom. Do we get it? In most cases, even in our families and communities, we are always told that akwenziwa kanje. But we have not posed a question: who said this is how things must be done and when? So if our political participation has no element of historical consciousness, sorry for my French, we are fucked. If our political participation does not consider the limitations of traditions that came at a particular point and the courage to abandon them, we are not going to go anywhere. And I'm going somewhere with this point. The logic of political participation in South Africa occurs within a particular political and economic framework. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. So when you participate, you must ask yourself questions. Under what conditions do I participate? Who determines terms and conditions of my participation? Because you'll realize that you participate, but the context within which you participate inherently constrains you to realize true freedom. I don't know if you get it. For example, when I was at Howard College, at the SU Rectangular building, second floor, there was a writing, I'm not sure whether it's still present. There was a writing that said, choose any color as long as it is black. You get it? Choose any color as long as it is black. So what we are offered a sense of choice without choice. False dilemma. So if then your participation does not challenge the framework within which you participate, and you participate with the belief that you have unlimited choices, then you're not going to go anywhere. Come on guys, when someone says to you, choose any color as long as it is black, is there any choice? There's no choice. Choose any color as long as it is black. So what are the implications of thinking that you have choice while there's no choice? You get a point? And this is the belief we are living under. We are living under a neoliberal, neo-colonial framework that inherently limits our participation. And I'm sure in his research work, DDP can acknowledge this. Civil society formations are inherently limited as to how far they go in staking their political, cultural, and economic claims. Now the fundamental question is, how many of us could have the political courage to challenge the framework that inherently limits our participation? That is the fundamental question. My understanding is everybody participates, but the question is, what is the logical conclusion of our participation wherever we are? Do we participate to become part? I think the program director spoke about the status quo. Do we participate to find space within the very unequal power relations so that we pay bills? Or do we say, no, the status quo has got nothing authentic to offer to us. We want to remake how society is organized. So those are some of the things that we need to do. And I will make practical examples. Small entrepreneurs. If the state or whoever, the corporate sector says to you, look, you have plenty of opportunities. You can do 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and get some funding. The fundamental question is, to what extent are you going to have power in the value chain? Or you will always remain a price taker, not a price maker. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about. Again, you are a small entrepreneur. And that is why I don't want, we need to challenge what I refer to as the fetish of the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur who is denied space, but is forever pushed to bang their head against the wall, while the environment is actually constraining. The condition we live under, it's a monopoly setup. You are a small entrepreneur, you want finance from ABSA. You are competing with, what you call it, Bitfest, which has interest in the very sector you are involved in. Who is going to win? Yeah. And this is what our government has not taken into consideration. As a result, the very big companies, they push us to a point where we give up on our goals, and they steal the very ideas that we produce. When you present something at ABSA, they steal ideas. Just like in the academia. When you are a good student, your supervisor who is doing a PhD, who has done a PhD, realizes that you have offered more on your topic intellectually. They fail you and they steal the idea, and you see these ideas in a journal. You see these ideas in a journal, and you start saying, but these are ideas that I presented to my supervisor. There are several cases of this nature. And what happens when the system refuses you or refuses to approve you? And I want to relate the entire thing of our participation in challenging the logic of oppression, is that you give up, and then you have what you call mental health related illnesses. If we don't challenge the power structure, we will always bang our heads against the wall, and implications are going to be far-reaching. Many people are committing suicide. And what we always discuss, especially what we argue in the 2 volumes of Socialism is that when you go to pharmacies, you conduct the small research. The pills that are bought most, my baby, ama morning after, mesekuba ama antidepressants. Because of our political and cultural imagination, we are made to believe that when you encounter the system and it refuses you, the problem is you, not the system. And what you do, you run to antidepressants, you run to sleeping pills. Because you need to deal, you believe that you have to deal with something internal. someone from working in a restaurant is told that, hey, please leave your emotions at home. Here you are at work as if human beings are not emotional. So if our participation does not challenge the logic where a human being is fragmented into something else, and then the complexity of our existence is not understood, that we are sexual, spiritual, psychological, and emotional human beings. And if this package is undermined, then we are not going to live as human beings properly. So I'm not going to come here and say find some niche and no, I'm here to invite you to the combat zone. It's an invitation to the combat zone. And the combat zone starts with the power structure. How is the power structure organized? Is our participation going to take us to a particular emancipatory end? Unless we just want to 20,000 home and pay bills, but the logic of paying bills, you pay bills, you lose your life. Because the process of paying bills is away from you. That's how it is. The logic of paying bills, and the logic of paying bills prevents solidarity amongst the black working class youth which is oppressed. Because someone beggarly, someone a beggarly. In fact, we compete in order for us to pay bills. Because once we come together, we think that no, our family and our family pressures and all those things. My argument is that we are not going to go anywhere if we do not challenge the political, ideological, and economic framework. And if we don't change our political imagination, if we don't challenge the limits, and we believe that when we are told that to stop here, because if we go overboard, we may pass and miss certain things, the privileges and the powers of the elite, then we are not going to go anywhere. And that is my problem with civil society formations. They play too much to the rules, to a point where it's fine when you play to the rules and not give us some weird vision that you are doing something serious. But when you play to the rules and tell us that you want fundamental change, it's a problem. As I am moving towards the end, the reality of the matter is that our participation, I want to emphasize the point I spoke about, of historical consciousness. Here, the reality of all of us here are black. Here. The reality of the matter is that we are participating in a country that has a political history that we must understand. It's a settler, colonial, anti-black, racist, patriarchal, homophobic, and transphobic society. Yeah, you get a point. So we are not just participating, moving from house A, house B, without in a historical void. No, we have a particular history, and if our participation is not responsive to the historical realities, then what else is it doing? If our participation does not undermine the logic of colonialism, of apartheid, of racism, of patriarchy, then our participation is nothing else but passing time while we are approaching the grave. That's it. I know some people say, hey, life is too short of this revolution and other things. No. Every time, even if till now we fail, we must not be selfish. We must lay the basis. And if not for us, at least for posterity, at least for our kids. You know. So we are told about the world of work as if it has these abundant opportunities. When you start working, you will live well. Or a very weird definition of success. That you go to school, you compete, you pass, you get married, you have kids, and that's the definition of success. But our realities tells us otherwise. Our realities tell us otherwise, that you can work but remain underemployed. People who are overworked but are underemployed. And they are paid less wages. And as a result, they go to, and again what we're dealing with in the 2 volumes, indebtedness. And The story, when we are dealing with these things, the way I write is through stories. It's about the foundational text of the book. It's about a lady from Eshowe. You get a point? No, you are Spanish, Tony Spanish baker, umefika baker. The expectation is that man Tony Spanish baker, asizoba khona isidingo sokuphatha umphako. Umefika lapha eSpanish. Phela benza izinto lapha. Umefika lapha eSpanish, imanager yakutshela ukuthi hey, no. This is company property. You are not allowed to eat bread. You'll have to wait for your wage to buy the very bread you bake. These are the dynamics of the power structure. So if we don't challenge the power structure, the cultural logic, the economic logic, then we will, the proverbial saying, we will run from fire into a frying pan. The only difference is that fire in the frying pan is mediated by the pan. But this was that's it. So we run from what? Racism, patriarchy. So what we are doing, what we want to do is young people to connect the dots. You see how we related the question of mental health related illnesses as a result of the system rejecting. Now, it's a practitioner with the psychology, the say like I can say. Now, when the housing, why can't our participation offer solutions to say, look, we are tired of you guys hiring consultants. These are practitioners here. You hire a consultant, you give a consultant 200 million. They've been given money by the municipality. So why can't we put, like, I don't know, anything? Our participation, if it is emancipatory, it has to put emancipatory offers. We are tired of people given money, even doing tenders, while we have young people who are unemployed but who went to school. A simple offer. You can even go to now how much money is used by government on consultants. Billions. And the irony is that the very same people, the very same companies hire us to do the actual work. They hire us because you don't find a white boy or white girl running around the patient no. If you give these people money, don't give us as practitioners in our own fields. And yet these people hire us to do the actual work. Why can't you just give us money directly as the state? Yeah, why can't you give us money directly as the state? Again, the battle is very ideological. By taking charge of our own development, we are able to define and redefine what we mean by progress and success. I don't know if you get it. Lastly, and I'm still waiting for someone who is going to challenge me on this. I've been saying it in various platforms. The idea perpetuated by media, the corporate sector, and the state that young black people lack skills, it's false at best and dangerous at worst. No, skills deficit. It's not a fundamental problem we are facing. No, it is the structure of the economy. And I will qualify my point. I want to mean at Lemont. It's surrounded by New German, Kloof, Ishowa, Westville. We have to put Lapana, we have to put Lapana, figure my van. Again, sorry for my language. I think I do know, said. Alinde abantu abazongena bayowenza iflooring neroofing yama-mansion. Yeah, these people abafikayo. Even tomorrow, if we can go there, uthola abantu bephethe amathuluzi wabo bengena emavenini. It's because these people, they don't want to go to South African Builders Association, whatever, to source people because they are expensive. So you declare people unskilled, but you exploit them. So people who are doing roofing, flooring, pruning trees, doing all these things, in those mentions are people who later on have to go back to their shanty towns. But still, when you come to the skills register, those people are not considered skilled. Here's the point. In South Africa, perhaps in some other areas, but I'm specifically talking about South Africa, skill is defined in as far as it is the ability of a human being to make profit for tiny individuals, for few individuals. That's the point. Because kunomalume abakwazi ukwenza ama-wardrobe. Ne? Kunabantu abakwazi ukukhanda izinto ezinkulu, izinto which are very key to our existence as a community. Ne? But those people are not going to be considered skilled because their craft is not related to profit making. That's it. Yeah, you are told that, so now young people have to run around, make CVs, update. The fundamental question we need to pose is, if you try the economy is ill, the economy is not fit for what and all those things, why should a human being struggle to fit into a thing instead of us modeling the economy, the thing, so that it responds to human needs? That's it. That's it. Why do you personify the economy so much as if its life is important? What is the essence of the economy if it doesn't respond to people's needs? And the entire logic that our schooling system doesn't respond to needs of industry. Bullshit. By the way, what does it mean for the very industry to have needs outside of human development? What does it mean? So the entire logic that our schooling system must produce people who are ready for industry, it doesn't suffice, it doesn't make sense. Because the assumption is that when you get into industry, as a worker, you are going to live a proper life. But our history tells us otherwise. Our history, our realities tells us otherwise. So in short, as a summary of my presentation is that unless we challenge the power structure, unless we challenge the economic logic of neoliberalism, unless we challenge the neo-colonial elite that is in charge of policy making, that is in charge of state planning, we are not going to go anywhere. If our imaginations are not far-reaching to capture the complexity of our realities and to offer authentic, sustainable solutions, then we may as well close shop and say we are waiting for the grave, we can't do anything. But if we are willing to say our participation must have emancipatory and revolutionary gravitas, we must challenge what matters. And the kind of questions we pose are the kind of questions that will determine how far we